Hello and welcome to a new video here with Sanny. Today I have a very special guest with me, a guy named Christian. He has been recommended by followers who have written to me on social media. A follower who is following me here on YouTube, he said I have to interview Christian. His story stands out from the crowd. He has, yes, been through something that is very fascinating, and he's very convinced that this exists. And he is a trained civil engineer, a Gothenburg native like me. This is the first time I've met him, but his story stands out from the crowd, so I can introduce him. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Tell us a little about yourself, Christian. Who are you?
Well, 41 years old from Gothenburg, grew up in Bergsjön from the beginning. Then for the first 9 years I lived in Bergsjön. It was lovely. Lived on a street with a large family. My dad has many siblings, so everyone lived on the same street. It was like the children in the concrete bun village, it was, grandma was there and everyone, it was really cozy. And then when I was 9, we moved outside Kungsbacka. So it was like from the suburbs out to the country with horses and football and in Kungsbacka, there's a lot of nature and stuff.
Compared to Bergsjön, the difference is truly like the vast distance between heaven and earth, honestly.
But I like Bergsjön too. There was a hell of a community back then. It was great to grow up there. It was a special time. A lot was happening in the world, as always, but I thought it was a good background. It was fun to live in Bergsjön, I think. A lot happened.
I myself hung out a lot in Bergsjön, Kortedala when I was younger. Also grew up in Västra Frölunda.
Yeah, Frölunda, yeah.
Västra Frölunda, Tynnered, that's right. How nice that you're from Gothenburg.
Yes.
Yes, there were followers here who wanted me to interview you. Because of what you've been through, you've seen things, you're convinced that there are UFOs and aliens and stuff like that.
Exactly.
We'll get to that in a moment. But I thought before we start on the topic itself, please tell the followers here who don't know who you are a little about your childhood. What was your upbringing like?
Well, my childhood, I think, was very safe and calm, nice like that. Did well in school. I had a lot of friends and played floorball and football and stuff. Did a lot of things you're supposed to do. Had a very quiet life, didn't party, took it very easy as a young person. I was also into music a bit, started making music when I was maybe 13, 14 or something, and spent a few years making a lot of music.
So you produced some of your own music, or did you sing, or were you involved, produced?
But that was a long time ago. Then I became a DJ, and have been a DJ a lot too. But I studied at the same time at Chalmers and became a civil engineer, and have worked in IT for 15 years as well.
I was just about to ask, so you graduated as a civil engineer from Chalmers. Exactly. That's where you usually take engineering programs in Gothenburg. A very nice school.
So it was, yeah, exactly. So that went well too. I started working while I was studying, so there was a lot of that.
So basically you've had a normal upbringing with floorball and soccer, music and being an engineer, and you lived in two areas that are, you've had a normal life, you could say, a normal upbringing, childhood and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it? What happened? How did you get into this? Let's get straight to the point. How did you start getting into looking at UFOs and aliens, starting to research this field? What happened?
Actually, from the beginning, I was interested even as a child. The school library and things like that. And then in Bergsjön, many of the street names are named after things in space or astronomers and so on. You have like a lot of names in Bergsjön that are reminiscent of that. So I've thought about it my whole life. But the big thing that happened was 5 or 6 years ago when I saw some videos of people being interviewed who had experienced incidents in Africa and Brazil where many people together got to meet them. Like UFOs had landed in 2 places, 2 of the best cases, I think. And when I saw all these people being interviewed, I just felt it was like, after having been very uncertain and hearing all the stories and seeing all the books and all the strange ideas and thoughts that people have shared, when you might think that all of this can't be true, but maybe some of it is, but there was so much.
Is this the New Jersey thing you're talking about? The one that happened in the US?
No, what I'm talking about happened 5 or 6 years ago, or for me, what happened was that I discovered those cases 5 or 6 years ago. One looked into, at the aerial school in Zimbabwe, something happened in '94 outside the town of Rua, where 60 school children like say that a UFO landed and that some beings came out and told them telepathically that you have to take better care of the earth, and tried to give them a message, you know.
Is there any technical evidence for this, or is it testimony from these children?
The one in Africa is just the testimonies. There's no good technical evidence at all. But then in Brazil, 2 years later, in the city of Varginha, 7 or 8 different things happened over a few days. There was one person who saw a UFO crash, and some girls in town have like given testimony that they met a being who also like gave them a bit of a message. There were 2 military police officers who drove a being to the hospital, and one of these officers later died of a skin infection. Or, yes, the military police officer, one of them. And now doctors have started to come forward who say they were part of this, who are testifying. For example, one of the highest ranking doctors who was in charge.
That it was aliens who landed there and injured a military police officer.
Yes, exactly. One alien who was injured but managed to survive was carefully taken to the local hospital there for treatment.
Oh, so they got him on camera and everything. This alien?
That's been kept secret, but it's claimed that there is material.
That kind of thing is hushed up by governments. They don't want to talk about it. That's the main problem here. So I imagine that it's hushed up. There's a lot of secrecy.
It's a huge question why that is, but yes, that's how it is. It's, you know, we humans, we've built the Berlin Wall. We've done a lot of strange things. In Korea, where they divided the country to perhaps keep communism or capitalism out, and we humans are afraid of foreign ideas. When something big comes along, you know, imagine meeting a being from another planet. It could call into question what we're doing on Earth, what the powers that be are doing here, and so on. Those are big thoughts. So that could be the big thing then, you know, that.
So you started looking into these cases, and you started to show an interest, wanting to delve deeper. You had a regular job as a civil engineer.
Exactly.
And you were working and all that, and
yes.
So you started to go a little deeper into this and became fascinated, wondering if it was real or if it was science fiction.
Exactly. And then a little while after I went all in on this, things happened in the US in 2023. A person came forward who testified under oath, you know, he has sworn that this is true. His name is David Grush, and a few others. So they have talked about being involved and seeing things, that they have information that there are secret programs with UFOs and recovered signs of life, you know, mysterious beings or subtle traces of life that we can't really place. We can't say it has anything to do with Earth, but it's, you know, it's something else.
But you yourself, I mean, this is information you've gathered, but you've created your own movement, I've heard. The Citizens of Disclosure of Sweden.
Yes, exactly.
What does that entail? What kind of movement is it?
Well, we're a group. There are about 10 of us involved who have gathered around this interest. So we have a professor, and we have a former homicide detective, a police officer who is with us, who has also gotten very deep into the subject. And then we've gotten in touch with the New Paradigm Institute in the US, which is lawyers who work with these whistleblowers who...
Yeah, because I was just about to say that. There are some whistleblowers, and I've actually heard and seen a little of that myself. Many have come forward and said that they've seen things and so on.
And that has existed before too. There was one in the 90s who was big or who came from a very high position, and that has happened before. But what's new now is that it's happening like in the American government, that they're sitting there and talking in Congress about this, and that they're swearing that it's true. And that they got permission from the Pentagon to start talking. A few years ago, they got permission to start talking. And that a little bit and a little more is coming out all the time that is like approved. Then there are many other people who say other things and so on, so it's very complicated. You can't believe everyone. Some must be lying and some must be telling the truth, I would think.
But these are people who have information, who have worked for NASA, or who have worked as perhaps researchers or investigators, or...
Yes.
People who are knowledgeable in the field, who may have quit and want to talk, or who want to testify about what they've seen.
Exactly. So it's everything from researchers to former Pentagon generals who have quit now, a few of them who want to talk. And this David Grush, he was in a very high position. He compiled information from satellite information organizations, NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, and NGA. I think it's the National Geospatial Agency or something like that, and compiled information every day for the president, like for, I think it was Obama, during Obama's time. So he sat and wrote what the president was supposed to know every day. So that's like a high level. David Grush.
He was high up in the military.
Very high up. And he has been subjected to terrible things, like people have from some intelligence agency leaked his medical history and threatened him
and that kind of thing. I was just about to say that.
Shown him like a pistol before he was going to testify, and
it's like people think you're sick when you talk like that. You get labeled as a nut job because this isn't common. It's not normal for ordinary people to believe in this stuff because people want evidence. They want it to be evidence-based. I know myself, when I graduated as a treatment assistant, we had to read in school that if there are people who think they see UFOs or aliens, then this is a diagnosis. You know, it's linked to delusions, hallucinations. Either you have schizophrenia, you have the diagnosis of schizophrenia, or you're manic or bipolar. So you're judged beforehand, so to speak. They put you in a box right away. And that's my next question now. What happened to you? You were committed to compulsory care.
Yes, exactly, last winter twice. So what happened was that we had just started this Citizens for Disclosure Sweden on October 20th, a year ago. And then we got in touch with these lawyers, and he's the lead counsel, the chief legal officer for the New Paradigm Institute, Daniel Sheehan. He has previously worked on very special major cases like Watergate, when one side of US politicians broke into the offices of the other to steal documents. And President Nixon was removed from office because of this. It became a huge scandal. He was involved back then, working on that case a bit as a lawyer. And he was also involved in the Iran-Contra scandal when they almost removed President Reagan from office. So he's been like at the highest level in the US for 50 years, working on things also connected to the Pentagon Papers, which was a famous case, and the rights of North American indigenous peoples and such, where people have like sued the state for what they've been through. So he's worked on major cases at the highest level for a long time. So this feels so big. And for us to be a part of this, as a small Swedish chapter for this, I thought that was so huge. So I went to the media, I wrote to all the newspapers everywhere in all of Sweden, you know, for a whole month.
You wanted to start a debate here in Sweden?
Yes, exactly. To raise the level a bit and get people to understand what's happening in other countries, because otherwise we'll get stuck in this, as you say, believing that this isn't real. Whereas I mean that there is such strong evidence now. And now it's not just one or two people who have testified under oath and sworn that this is real on their lives. And if you lie about something like that in a court of law, you can be prosecuted and sued for a lot. So, but now there are 12 people who have accomplished this on 3 separate occasions. And next, in a few weeks, a documentary is coming out where 34 people are speaking together.
How did traditional media receive you when you went to them and tried to start a debate? Did they take you seriously, or did they see you as a nut job who...
No, I got almost no responses. I really pushed GP, you know? And I just got like, yeah, I basically just got silence, or maybe someone replying that we might look into it. We'll see. But no one took it seriously or wanted to talk to me.
You first tried with newspapers, GP, GT, Aftonbladet. Was there anything on SVT, TV4?
All of them. I wrote to everyone. The only one who answered me was one of these, I can't remember their name now, but Naya Tider or something like that. Someone wrote, yes, this is very interesting, so they might want to talk sometime. Otherwise, it was basically complete silence. I got no answers, no one wanted to talk. And I even suggested to GP, can't I just come over for a coffee and talk about it for 15 minutes so you can meet me and see what I say or what you think when you meet me in person, or we could have a call.
Why do you think they don't want to meet? Because this is a very interesting topic to talk about. Why don't they want to have that debate in Sweden, do you think?
I think a lot of people think, like you said earlier, that this isn't real. They might get the information, but they just skim it and don't really see that this can't be real. or that he's making it up. He's saying this about these famous people, but it can't be some guy from Bergson who's working on this, because they're in the US. People probably think it can't be true.
But there's a lot of stuff in the papers that isn't true.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not just this. There's a lot that isn't true in the media, traditional media or TV. Sometimes they talk about ridiculous things.
But there are also people in Sweden who say that all the editors-in-chief know that this is not something to be discussed. And if you do talk about this, you're supposed to call one person, a guy named Klas Svahn, who is the chairman of UFO Sweden. He's almost the only one who's allowed to talk about this in the media. And I know, there's a well-known female researcher in Sweden, and there are lots of other people they should be talking to instead. But I've heard of a case where someone was contacted by the radio SR to do an interview, and then a day later they call this person back and say, oh, sorry, it's not happening. Then the program airs anyway, and guess who's on it? Klas is there talking about this person and what that person has done, instead of them.
Do you think this is political, that it's controlled from abroad, that they're silencing Swedish traditional media, or?
Yeah, why not? I mean, because it looks the same in almost every country in Europe. There's one expert who's the only one allowed to speak. It looks like a structure that exists in pretty much all the countries around here. So it feels like it's very well thought out.
I mean, these thoughts, when you know that you're right, that you've delved into this and there's evidence according to you that holds up, and you must have gotten very frustrated and almost depressed. Is that why you sought care?
Exactly, because I spent like a month on this going full speed and got no answers. It was like emailing into thin air, like hitting a brick wall. So yeah, it became really tough. So I just felt like I started to feel really bad and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I thought, I have to do something. I couldn't turn to the media. I couldn't do that. I also tried politicians. Again, no answers or just complete non-answers, Who are you? What does this have to do with you? You don't know anything. Like, we know better. This is nothing. That was the best I got, basically. It became really tough. So I went to my health center just to see if I felt I was getting a bit agitated and maybe needed something to calm me down or something. To get some help, maybe talk to someone. Just do something about it. Because I felt I was getting more and more like entangled in it. I mean, I got a lot of, what should I say? I went into it with a lot of passion and energy. And I felt it was escalating because I wanted to get it out even more when I didn't get any answers. So maybe I needed help.
You got frustrated perhaps internally because you have so much information, but no one is listening to you, so you felt thwarted. So you sought help on your own. You went to
Yes.
the health center. What happened there?
So I get to see the doctor there. And I tell him first, I have to warn you about this conversation because this might be something that's strange or difficult for you. I might say things you won't believe or don't want to hear. But I have very solid evidence for this. So this is real and it could get very... You have to agree to let me tell you about it first, You can't... I tell him, you can't... You can't just dismiss this or...
You warned him about the conversation beforehand so he would be prepared and take you seriously.
Exactly.
Because I wanted to show him documentation and proof that what I was saying is true.
Exactly.
Did he take you seriously, or did you get the impression that he thought you were crazy?
He couldn't process it. He basically said that he didn't believe it. And I thought, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to believe it. And then he walked away, and we were sitting there talking for a bit. And then all of a sudden, 2 police officers storm in. Who take you to
compulsory care?
Who take me to the psychiatric emergency unit? And the doctor hadn't said anything about this happening or what diagnosis he'd made or anything. He just said, now you're going over there so we can get a second opinion from another doctor.
So he made a decision that you were sick?
Yes.
Mentally, that you needed psychiatric care? He thought that you had psychosis?
He thought that what I was saying couldn't be true, That I can't be in contact with these people. I can't be at the level I'm at. This doesn't exist. Christian is just sitting at home with no contacts and making things up, he probably thought. So it was insane.
So the police took you against your will from the health center?
Yes.
And you ended up in some emergency ward, or?
Yes, exactly. So it was, I got in there, got to talk to another doctor, and I was there for 26 hours that time and got to talk to 5 doctors. And it was only the 5th doctor who actually took me a bit seriously, who looked at my documents and links. The other 4 didn't want to say anything. They just talked to me for a short while, like 15, 20 minutes, half an hour at most, and just said, no, you're sick. This is how it is. You're sick. You need help. This can't be real.
But do you have a diagnosis? Have you been evaluated for a diagnosis? Do you have it on paper?
No, I mean, the only thing is that they've given me a diagnosis of delusional disorder. That I'm supposed to have, that I've made this up, that it's not real, that I'm imagining things. Of course, I'm sure I say things that aren't correct or true, things I've been misled about that aren't right, but we all do that all the time. So the subject is huge, that these people have testified under oath, that there are these researchers who are saying it, that a documentary is coming out now with 34 people talking about this from the highest level. Marco Rubio and those guys,
You were issued an LPT there at the health center by the doctor, the Act on Compulsory Psychiatric Care, and you ended up in an emergency ward against your will. They considered you to be like mentally ill and in need of care.
Exactly. And I mean, being there for 26 hours and getting to talk to a bunch of doctors and so on, that's fine. So that was back in November. But then when I was allowed to leave, I just continued with this. And at the end of January, it had escalated a bit, I've gotten deeper into everything, made better contacts, and gotten even more information that I believe in.
So they released you after 36 hours the first time?
26.
26 hours, then you were a free man.
Yep. And so I just continued with my contacts, getting more information, writing things, sending them to the media, and just continuing with everything. And what also happens during this time is that I start getting strange messages from people, almost a bit threatening, on social media, on forums and such, on Facebook, in groups.
Are you very active on social media?
Fairly, in periods, yeah.
Okay, so you've talked about it openly on social media?
Exactly.
And I assume there are fake accounts that are harassing you, perhaps?
Yes, exactly. Me and 2 other people have traced one of these accounts in particular, and we're very sure who it is. But even stranger things happened. I was like also working on a book, and after I did things, I also had material related to this on my iCloud. And when I, in January, decided that, okay, I have to do something, I'm not getting any answers from politicians, from the media, I go to the police and file a report, because material from my iCloud had started to disappear. Book material and things like that. And then when I go to the police station, all of these documents, everything just disappears. What disappears?
Who do you think was behind it? Wasn't it the police themselves? Did you have a house search then, or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to go into the exact details here, but if I'm going to talk about exactly how this works and what happened, I want to show everything at the same time, because no one will believe this is true if I just talk about it and why I think it's a certain person and how this all works.
So someone hacked into your computer then, some technician or some kind of coder or something? It's not easy to hack into someone's computer unless it's the authorities doing it.
Exactly. No, but I don't want to go into exactly what I think or how I know what I know.
But you have your suspicions?
Very strong suspicions. So I go to the police then to report a data breach and a few other things related to this. Together with my girlfriend, we go to the police station January 21st or January 20th, I think it was. Yes, January 20th. So we get there and sit there for 40 minutes. It's completely empty. Well, or I check in first and then we sit and wait. And nothing happens. There are no people there. I have to sit and wait for 40 minutes, almost an hour, before I get to talk to a police officer. I start to explain, and he's like, okay, you have a few minutes, this can't be true. After 3 minutes, he stops me. I thought I had 5 minutes, but he stopped me after 3 minutes and says, listen, Christian, we deal with real crimes here.
He didn't want to hear it. He felt that you weren't telling the truth there, that he didn't want to hear anymore.
No, so he says, get out of here.
That's poor from the police, so they didn't take it seriously. So the media didn't take it seriously. The police didn't take it seriously when you wanted to file a report about a data breach.
No, exactly. And he has every right to refuse me. He can give me a reason and say that, yeah, but this, I don't believe this, this is completely crazy, I don't believe this. But then he also has to tell me his name according to the rules. And he doesn't. I don't get his name.
But did he write down the report because he's obligated to do that?
No.
He still has to do that. He has to write down the report regardless of whether you're talking nonsense or telling the truth. Every citizen has the right to file a report.
You have the right to try to file a report, but I think but then they can drop it.
But he has to listen to you and document what you've said.
I thought so too, but I've looked it up, and if it's too crazy or seems too strange, the police have the right to stop it right there, as I understand it. But you still have to get a reason and the name so you can report it or take it further.
And his reason was that he doesn't believe this, he didn't have time for this.
No, exactly.
There are bigger crimes.
But he hasn't said his name. So I say, okay, I'll go, but what's your name? I want your name, because I want to take this further.
Because you have the right to know his, if you want to file a complaint against him because you feel insulted, I assume, and humiliated.
In this situation? Exactly. But what happens is that he refuses to give his name and throws me out. Then 2 more police officers arrive. So on the way out, and my girlfriend sees this, she's sitting there waiting, and she starts filming. So there's some video of this too, of what's happening, and we get outside, and I think I asked him 16 or 17 times what his name was. And they push me down to the ground, face first. I start bleeding on my cheek, and they drag me on the ground, drag me along the asphalt. Then he says his name for the first time. It was maybe ridiculous, but I mean, a police officer is trained to be able to should be able to handle people who are...
But you weren't acting out, you weren't aggressive. You seem to be a very calm person.
I was calm.
You're an academic, a highly educated civil engineer. You're not exactly known for being troublemakers. You seem like a calm guy when you talk.
I haven't been in a fight since preschool,
So you felt they used excessive force in that situation?
Exactly. And it became a much bigger deal than it should have been. And I don't feel it was my fault. I stood up for my democratic right, everyone's right to get his name and a reason, That's how it's supposed to work. They took me out, and drove me to the jail. I had to sit there for an hour, and weird things happened there. They behaved really badly. It really wasn't fun at all.
What happened? Was it the city police? They probably drove you to Skånegatan.
Right.
That's usually their routine.
Exactly.
So that's where you wanted to file the report, the city police, Bodingsgatan, and then they drove you to Skånegatan.
Exactly.
After an hour, what decision did they make? Were you free to go, or did you end up in the psych ward again, or what happened?
No, I was allowed to go home.
You were allowed to go.
So the next day, I called the police to try to take this further. And I was promised that I could go to another police station and was promised that I could file my report correctly. So I go to Vågmästarplatsen and go to the police station there, meet 2 very nice police officers, and I get to sit for an hour and start giving them information.
Now you wanted to report the police, or who was it you wanted to report?
No, I didn't care much about that. I wanted to file a report against the data breach and the other thing about that I and a few others believe we know which people are controlling this cover-up in Sweden and so on. So it's super sensitive, and I have to watch what I say. I can't just say it however I want. It could become slander and all sorts of things. I have to think about what I say there.
And how did they receive your report now at this other police station?
Very professionally, no problem. But there's so much information, and there's so much, as I said, I feel that I need to do the job for the police. I need to prove everything myself for them to do anything. And I have so much information, but an hour is not enough. I would have needed 3 hours maybe. So it gets dropped later on, and I call the investigator, and she says like, no, I really don't believe this. There's nothing here at all. This UFO thing is just made up. It simply doesn't exist. We're not going to look into this any further. You should seek some psychiatric help instead, she says.
But do they drop it on the spot, or do you get a letter home after 1 or 2 weeks saying the investigation won't proceed, it's being dropped?
Yes, it was after a few weeks. Yes, exactly. So it came later. Sorry, I jumped ahead a bit in time here.
Okay, but then They at least took it in, they wrote it down. Then maybe sometimes there's a lack of resources or they don't want to press charges. It could be a matter of cost.
You have to accept that. But then I felt that I at least got to do something about it.
You must have gotten even more frustrated, I can imagine, now that you were in this process. What was the next step after you got the letter home saying nothing will come of this either? The report is being dropped.
The next step was that same day. I kept going, and I intensified my contact with GP and SVT. I went to the SVT building and, yeah, after having chased them for 4 months, I thought, I'll try going there and asking for a coffee just to talk to someone and tell them, So I was very firm and said, like, I'm not leaving until I get to talk to someone. And then he said, well, then we'll call the police. So the police came and drove me to the psych ward again.
So that's what happened. They drove you to the psych ward again, and now you had to stay even longer, I imagine, than 26 hours.
Now the big part began. I had no idea at the time, I was in an acute ward. That's how long it was. I talked to doctors. I was in administrative court 3 times. It took almost 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks of...
Then you were probably put in restraints and things like that. It's compulsory care, so were you put in restraints? Exactly. Got the shot in the butt and all that, exactly.
I was knocked out for 3 days. I couldn't talk for like 3 days. I was completely out of it.
What does that actually feel like? I've worked at Roe Gordon. I've worked in forensic psychiatry. I mean, that's the worst thing you can subject someone to when you're that powerless.
Yeah, and the only thing I did was, the only time during this whole episode that I think I was angry or aggressive, was when we got to the psych ward. I sort of lightly pushed a sofa into the wall. No outburst toward any staff. I didn't do anything else. It was just out of aggression, I just pushed the sofa against the wall a little bit. That's when
They pressed the alarm? Exactly, exaggerated, wrestled you down, 7, 8 men, put you in restraints, your feet, your arms, unable to move.
And I don't know what the hell they gave me, but like I said, I was knocked out for 3 days. I couldn't even talk on the phone. I couldn't, like my tongue didn't work, I couldn't talk. Totally insane stuff. And then, yeah, so I'm there, and...
So unnecessary, just because he pushed a sofa. They could have just had a conversation with you instead. There's staff there. They could have addressed the problem, listened to you a bit, offered you a cup of coffee, calmed you down instead of having to wrestle you down, put you in restraints, and put you on a gurney against your will.
Because I saw things when I was there. I mean, I saw people stealing phones from others. I saw people shouting and screaming and making outbursts at the staff. And maybe that just resulted in a reprimand. The level... Anything could happen, and sometimes there were no consequences. And then there was someone else who maybe got put in restraints.
But was there anyone there who listened to you, any doctor? After you were put in restraints and you calmed down, what happened then?
No, not anyone who took me seriously. They listened, and the doctor went in hard at the beginning and turned against what I was doing. So the first time we were in administrative court, I have this recorded. I have a lot of quotes on this. He says things like, you can believe whatever you want. He says that this is like astrology, like the man with the beauty marks and stuff like that. When I have like video documents of people testifying under oath where I'm involved.
So what's their response? The doctor's response, I can imagine, since I'm in that field myself, is that they see you as having a diagnosis of schizophrenia. You're manic, you have delusions, hallucinations. They want to say you're bipolar, that you're agitated. I can imagine that's the kind of talk you get there.
So it goes from delusions at first. And then when he notices that I'm standing my ground and that I have like contacts, several of my contacts call in and talk to them and ask what they're doing and so on. And it becomes, I get an acquaintance who's a journalist writes about it and things happen, and some friends even talk about standing outside and holding some kind of demonstration or something. A lot of things happen. I'm also a DJ and a party promoter. I know a lot of people and have many contacts in different areas. So, but it goes from delusions to, manic and bipolar. And he wants to give me electric shocks and one thing and another.
So they want to give you electric shocks?
Yeah. Everything. But that talk in the beginning about the UFO stuff and all that being delusions, that disappears over time when he notices that I talk so much about it, that I have so much information and documents and contacts. So in the end, it's just about mania and bipolarity and stuff like that. The other stuff just disappears, you know?
Have you yourself, Christian, ever seen a UFO or aliens or something from the sea? Or is it just that you've heard stories and researched it and so on, but have you seen anything yourself?
2 times. One time is very good. The second time is a little less clear. And I also have many acquaintances.
Where were you when you saw this UFO, here in Gothenburg in Sweden or abroad?
Yeah, outside of Kungälv.
What kind of UFO was it? What did it look like? And can you just describe the feeling or how it happened that time?
Exactly. It was me and a person who is very knowledgeable about this, who I think is the best at this in Sweden. We went out to meet a contact person that he has. A contact person is someone who claims to have contact. It can be that you receive, like, telepathically, information you get from something that some people say is hearing voices, that you're sick and so on, while others say it's real. So he had received the message that we should go there to make contact, you know? And what happens after just a few minutes, as we're sitting there at night watching, is that a light appears traveling across the sky. And he just says, "Oh, there it is." And then it moves in a way, it shows itself, makes strange movements that I've never seen anything else do.
Was it round, with blue and white lights like you see? Or what was the UFO itself like?
It was too far away. So it was like you could see, it looked like it was green and red light, I think, together. It was too far away to be, it wasn't a saucer or anything like that, but probably one of those drones that are pretty common nowadays.
That's what many people think, that they're drones, while many say they're UFOs. That's the thing, you don't really know because you can't see them on radar and things like that now. Many blame Russia. Several airports have been shut down, including in Denmark.
Landvetter last week. On Thursday evening, Landvetter was closed for 3 hours.
Because of drones.
Drones, or yeah.
But have they been able to prove that they're drones? Or is it impossible to prove if it was something else?
What I find most interesting is in Denmark, after Kastrup Airport closed last month, the police say, "You have to talk to the military." And the military says, "You have to talk to the police." So you can't turn to anyone. And in the media, the defense, I think it's the Minister of Defense, a high-ranking official, I think it's a politician who comes out and says that these probably aren't drones. We'll have to call these air observations, he says. This could be something we're seeing in the air, but he's still honest enough to say that they're probably not drones. So they're basically UFOs then. The word UFO can...
Because they're pretty big, right, these things? They're 5 by 5 meters or 6 by 6.
Exactly.
Exactly.
This whole thing has been going on for several years, really, and the most prominent case was in New Jersey, as you mentioned, about a year ago.
Yeah, what happened in New Jersey? Can you tell us briefly? I've read a little about it, but maybe you can tell us a bit about what happened.
Yeah, well, a year ago there were a ton of observations, both among civilians, but also over military targets and the airports there, Newark and the surrounding area. A huge number. And there are good videos you can search for and find them. Many of them disappear or become hard to find, But there are really good videos where you can see they're as big as SUVs, 4 or 5 meters maybe. They often look like model airplanes. They look like small airplanes, but they have lights on. So if it were some kind of espionage or something, someone flying in to map the area, why would they have lights on? It's like they want to be seen.
What do you think the reason is, Christian, that it's always military targets or airports that are affected? If it's extraterrestrials and so on, why is that where they want to know? It's never like a town square or it's always military areas or airports.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I actually don't know, but one idea that some people have is that the extraterrestrials who are good, who are here or who come here for good reasons, that they're not really supposed to affect humanity. There's a kind of universal rule that you shouldn't interfere with less developed civilizations. So you don't go to a tribe on an island off the coast of India while they're living their lives and just drop an iPhone there to, mess them up. You let them live their lives. And that's the same thinking behind life in the universe, that you shouldn't interfere as much as possible, but they're so tired of what humanity is up to with our wars and environmental destruction and so much else.
The extraterrestrials.
Yes, or if it's an advanced life form that comes from Earth originally or from Mars or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be what you'd imagine, that it's extraterrestrials from the other side of the universe. It could be...
Where do you think these extraterrestrials come from? Where?
There are 1,000 different ideas. I think it could be a mix of things. I mean, according to the man in charge of the New Paradigm Institute, who I think has the best information, who is very careful to only state facts, he says there are between 2 and 6 civilizations. Not even he knows for sure. Because there are so many different sources and people saying different things, and there are official sources spreading false information so that if there was only one truth, everyone would know it. But if the truth is out there, it doesn't matter if there are 10 other versions, so no one knows what's exactly true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
So not even he, who I think is among the best.
How many types of extraterrestrials are there? Because they could come from the ocean, they could come from underground, so they're undergrounders or whatever you'd call them. They could come from space.
Even a congressman now, Tim Burchett, says he has very good sources who are saying there are actually some bases in the oceans. That is, they have apparently built bases in the oceans in a few different places on Earth.
So you believe in the oceans, like the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic, and so on, that deep, deep down in the ocean, several thousand meters deep, there could be a base there.
I don't think they travel here every single time. I think that since so many people are seeing drones and UFOs now, there must be a base somewhere. They can't just travel here every time. It's too far. You can send anything into space over a few thousand years. You can build a ship where you put people into hibernation. It's called a von Neumann probe with cryotechnology and things like that. It doesn't matter if you send something for 10,000 years. You can just send it and wake them up if you have such advanced technology.
What do you think about the fact that no one can really capture them on film, like on some satellite channel? Do they have some kind of radiation? Why can't you see them on radar? Why can't they be filmed, do you think?
It's not true that they can't be filmed, but the footage is hard to find. But they seem to want to show themselves but not be filmed. It seems like they're so incredibly smart or so insightful that they just get it when someone's filming. They can sense it or something like that, and they want to avoid it. There's also technology where, or so it's said, or many claim, that when the UFOs are flying, they become sort of a bit diffuse almost, because it's a technology that bends space-time so that it creates like...
There are also the ones that are a ball. We see them as saucers, we see them as a ball, as people have seen.
Exactly. And it's said they have technology to create a cloud, that they sort of go and hide in the cloud. So there are all sorts of ways that it's said that they want to hide. Probably because, as I said before, they want to have as little impact as possible. They want to awaken humanity and get us to stop warring and doing stupid things. But they'd rather not, go in and show themselves to a crowd of people. Instead, they do as little of it as they can.
What do you think? Are we humans under threat from this? Is it dangerous for the future, or will we be able to have some communication with them? Or do you think they'll take over the Earth? What do you think will happen in the end?
Well, I think what will happen is that more and more people will slowly start to understand what this is all about. And that's what I think that the powers that be, many in power here, want that too, for us to understand, but for it to happen slowly. They don't want the whole world to wake up and realize we've been lied to about this, because that could make us start thinking about other things that aren't true. So they want it to happen slowly, and they want humanity to evolve and become smarter and more peaceful and to take care of each other and the planet. Most of them, but there are probably other kinds of aliens that are malicious. But from what I've heard, they're not welcome here anymore and aren't allowed to be here. So now, the ones who are here, who are left, they're peaceful and just want to help us. So not that many, from what I understand, maybe it's not true, but not that many abductions happen anymore. That was more of a thing in the past.
Because it's never happened that someone has died because of aliens, right? That they've killed, I mean, people. You said they've been harmed, that there was some incident there.
Yes, but it has happened. There are some who claim they've been injured by some kind of energy weapon, and people who have disappeared. There are many mysterious disappearances where we don't know what happened to the people. You also have these cattle mutilations where livestock have been, where someone has gone in with, with laser precision and cut out. There's very good documentation on this. Cut out organs from the bodies, where they found like cows and such lying abandoned, where someone has performed procedures on them, so to speak. So, well,
You mean they want to study us humans? They want to know how our civilization works, how our bodies are built? Is it something like that?
I think they figured that out very quickly. I don't think much research is needed for that. But I think they're genuinely very curious about. I see Earth as a very beautiful planet, and that humanity is a very special species.
We have a very. Do you believe in God and so on? In demons, God, and things like that?
I believe in, how should I put it, a kind of spiritual world, a kind of world where there are things that aren't physical, but where you might be able to get information from, or that, yes, simply a spiritual world. I'm not really into any religion, but I think that I've also written a book about this, about how I think the universe started and so on.
What's your book called? Is it out now, or are you still finishing it?
It's out now. You can just order it right now on my website.
What's the book called?
It's called Den ofrivilliga existensen in Swedish, which translates to the involuntary existence in English. So if you visit the website christiansens.com, you will find that you can fill in a set of questions about the recipient. After you submit your answers to those questions, I then use that information to generate a unique, personalized version of the book specifically for the recipient, based on the responses you provided. So it's a new kind of book, you could say, with AI and all that.
And this organization that you've started in Sweden, what does it look like for you? What are your future plans?
We do things now and then. This summer, 2 of us were at Almedalen. I wasn't there, but they were at Almedalen with our tent, trying to inform and talk to politicians and so on. We'll probably do it again next year too. Then we have our social media where we share news and such. When something really big comes out that we consider to be confirmed by facts, we try to stick to what is, let's say, approved or confirmed by very strong sources. So there's a lot more information I could speculate about, but we try to stick to what is, in our view, confirmed facts.
Good luck, really. It gives you food for thought. A very deep conversation, a very interesting conversation. I really hope it goes well for you and that you get vindication in the end and that you're heard by both traditional media and ordinary people. It's been very interesting to sit and talk with you. Yes, you're great, Christian.
Thanks so much, Sami. It was a great interview. Really good questions, and it was great to be here.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.